She was 8 months pregnant, lying in a puddle of whiskey and pleading for mercy, when a jagged stiletto heel came crashing down toward her outstretched hand. But the blow never landed, because the silent man in the shadows, a feared Mafia don hiding in plain sight, caught the attacker's ankle with a bone-crushing grip that instantly silenced the entire room. He didn't just stop the assault. He revealed that this wasn't random bullying. It was a calculated hit, and he was the only monster dangerous enough to keep her alive. If you're hooked in and want to enjoy this story, go ahead and subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see where everyone's watching. Plus, tomorrow I've got another incredible story lined up, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Alright, back to the story. Please, I'm pregnant. Don't hurt me, Cindy whispered as the bullies closed in. And then the Mafia boss did something no one in that bar would ever forget. Cindy Wade pressed her back against the sticky wooden wall behind El Toro's bar, her black apron still dripping with whiskey from the drink a customer had deliberately thrown at her just seconds before. At 29, she'd grown accustomed to invisible wounds, the kind that came from working double shifts while 8 months pregnant, fighting to keep a roof over her head after her husband's death left her with nothing. Her hands trembled as she clutched her swollen belly, not from the glass shards cutting into her palm, but from the woman's final words. Maybe if you weren't so slow and pathetic, you wouldn't be knocked up and serving trash like us. What Cindy didn't know was that across the dimly lit bar, a man in a black suit with an unbuttoned collar, dark tattoos curling up from his chest, slicked back hair, and a presence that made the air feel heavier had been watching everything unfold. Drew Gonzalez, the name whispered like a death sentence across the district, controlled every illegal operation within a 10-block radius. But what he'd just witnessed made something crack inside the armor he'd worn for years. Where are you watching from tonight? Cindy had been working at El Toro Bar for nearly 8 months, ever since her husband's sudden death in a hit-and-run left her completely alone and financially destroyed. The tips barely covered the overdue rent on her cramped studio apartment, but it was honest work, and she'd learned long ago that survival meant finding dignity in whatever kept her child to be alive and safe. Most patrons were harmless enough lonely drinkers nursing their regrets, neighborhood regulars who nodded politely when she refilled their glasses. But lately, there'd been a different crowd, people who seemed to feed on cruelty, who found entertainment in reminding a pregnant woman of her powerlessness. Drew had started coming to El Toro 3 weeks ago, always sitting in the same shadowed corner booth, always ordering whiskey neat and watching the room with eyes that missed nothing. He wore expensive suits with loosened ties, exuded danger from every angle, and rarely spoke beyond his order. Cindy had marked him as trouble the first night she served him another enforcer type, maybe a loan shark or a gangster, someone who understood violence as a language. She'd noticed the way other customers avoided his gaze, the tattoos that disappeared beneath his collar, how he'd leave cash on the table without waiting for change. She'd seen the deference in the bartender's eyes, the way even the rowdiest drunks kept their distance from his corner. What she never suspected was that the dangerous man in the shadows had been protecting her from afar, watching her struggle with quiet strength, noticing every indignity she endured and slowly becoming unable to look away. Tonight had started like any other hellish shift. Cindy's feet ached, her lower back screamed with every step, and the baby had been kicking relentlessly for the past hour. She'd been carrying 3 drinks to table 7 when she accidentally brushed against a woman at the bar, a brunette in a sequined black top, heels sharp enough to draw blood, surrounded by 2 men in leather jackets who looked like they spent their nights looking for trouble. "Watch where you're going," the woman snarled, shoving Cindy backward. The tray wobbled. Cindy caught it just in time, but whiskey sloshed over the rim of one glass, spattering the woman's arm. "You clumsy bitch!" The woman grabbed her own drink and flung it directly at Cindy's face. The bar erupted in laughter as Cindy gasped, alcohol burning her eyes, soaking through her uniform. She stumbled, catching herself against the wall, trying to breathe through the humiliation. I'm so sorry," Cindy stammered. "Let me get you." "You'll get me nothing." The woman stood, towering over Cindy in her stilettos. "Look at you, pregnant and pathetic. You shouldn't even be working if you can't do your job right." The 2 men flanking her grinned, moving closer. One was muscular with a shaved head and neck tattoos. The other wore rings on every finger, each one designed to hurt. "She looks like she's about to cry," the bald one mocked, nudging Cindy's shoulder with his boot. "What's wrong, Mama? Can't handle a little joke?" Cindy's knees buckled. She slid down the wall, landing hard on the floor, her hands immediately covering her belly. "Please, I didn't mean to. Maybe if you weren't so slow and pathetic," the woman sneered, stepping closer. "You wouldn't be knocked up and serving trash like us." The bar had gone silent. Patrons looked away, suddenly fascinated by their drinks. The bartender pretended to be busy washing glasses. No one moved. No one helped. The woman lifted her stiletto heel, positioning it above Cindy's outstretched hand. "Please," Cindy's voice broke. "Please, I'm pregnant. Don't hurt me." The woman's smile widened. "Should have thought about that before." A hand clamped around her ankle, stopping the heel mid-descent. The entire bar froze. Drew Gonzalez stood there, his grip iron, his face carved from stone. His dark eyes burned with something lethal as he looked at the woman, then at her two companions. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, controlled, and absolutely terrifying. "You touch her again, and you won't walk out of this bar." The woman's face drained of color as Drew's grip tightened around her ankle. She tried to pull away, but his hold was unyielding. His eyes locked on hers with the kind of cold fury that made grown men confess their sins. "Let go of me," she hissed, but her voice trembled. "Do you know who? I know exactly who you work for," Drew said, his tone so low only those closest could hear. "And they know who I am." Recognition flickered across the bald man's face. He grabbed his companion's arm, whispering urgently, "That's Gonzalez. That's him." The second thug paled, backing up a step. "Boss, we didn't know she was." "You knew enough." Drew released the woman's ankle with a controlled shove that sent her stumbling backward into her companions. "You knew she was alone. You knew she was vulnerable. You knew exactly what you were doing." From her position on the floor, Cindy watched in stunned silence, her arms still wrapped protectively around her belly. The man she'd served whiskey to for 3 weeks, the one she'd assumed was just another dangerous customer, had transformed into something else entirely. The entire bar seemed to bend around his presence, the neon lights casting shadows that made him look both terrifying and impossibly commanding. Drew took a step forward, and all 3 bullies retreated. The woman tried to salvage her dignity, smoothing her sequined top with shaking hands. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice pitched too high. "We were just having fun. She's just a waitress. She's a pregnant woman you were about to assault." Drew's words cut through the air like a blade. "In my territory." In a bar where everyone knows the rules, the bald man held up his hands in surrender. "We got carried away. That's all. We'll leave." "No problem." "Oh, you'll leave," Drew agreed, his expression darkening. "But first, you're going to apologize." To her, the woman laughed, a brittle sound that died in her throat when Drew's gaze snapped to her. "You can't be serious. Do I look like I'm joking?" Silence stretched across the bar. Cindy could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears, could feel the baby shifting uncomfortably inside her. She wanted to tell them it was fine, that she was used to this, that they should all just leave her alone. But the words wouldn't come. The woman turned toward Cindy, her face twisted with resentment. "Sorry," she muttered, the word barely audible. "Louder," Drew commanded. "And mean it." "I'm sorry I threw a drink at you," the woman said through gritted teeth, each word forced. "It was wrong." Drew shifted his attention to the 2 men. "You," the bald one spoke quickly. "Sorry for pushing you around. Won't happen again." His companion nodded frantically. "Yeah, sorry. We were out of line." Drew studied them for a long moment, then gestured toward the door with a slight tilt of his head. "Get out, and tell whoever sent you that the message was received." The 3 of them scrambled toward the exit, the woman's heels clicking frantically against the hardwood floor. The door swung shut behind them, and only then did the tension in the room begin to ease. Conversations resumed in hushed whispers. The bartender started moving again, though his hands still shook as he poured drinks. Drew turned back to where Cindy sat against the wall, his expression softening in a way that made him look almost human. He crouched down slowly, keeping distance between them, his dark suit jacket pulling tight across his shoulders. "Are you hurt?" His voice had lost its edge, replaced with something that sounded like genuine concern. Cindy stared at him, trying to process what had just happened. No, I don't think so. Your hand is bleeding." She looked down and saw blood welling from where the glass had cut her palm. She'd been so focused on protecting her stomach that she hadn't even felt it. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." Drew pulled a clean handkerchief from his pocket, offering it to her. "May I?" When she nodded, he gently took her hand and wrapped the cloth around the wound, his movements surprisingly careful for someone who'd just terrified 3 people into submission. His hands were warm, calloused, nothing like she'd expected. "Thank you," Cindy whispered, her voice breaking. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Drew met her eyes, and for the first time, she saw past the dangerous exterior to something deeper, something wounded. Can you stand? I think so. He helped her to her feet with a steady hand at her elbow, supporting her weight as she swayed. The baby kicked hard, as if protesting the evening's excitement, and Cindy gasped. What's wrong? Drew's grip tightened protectively. Just the baby. She doesn't like all the drama. Cindy tried to smile, but tears were sliding down her cheeks now, the reality of what almost happened finally hitting her. I'm sorry. I don't usually fall apart like this. You have nothing to apologize for. Drew guided her toward the back room, away from the staring eyes of the other patrons. Come on. You need to sit down properly, and we need to talk. About what? Drew's jaw tightened, his expression turning grim. About why those people targeted you, and about why you're not safe here anymore. Drew led Cindy through the cramped hallway past the kitchen, where the smell of grease and burnt onions hung thick in the air, and into the manager's office at the back of the bar. The small room was cluttered with boxes of liquor, stacks of invoices, and a metal desk that had seen better days. He pulled out the only chair and gestured for her to sit. Cindy sank into it gratefully, her legs still trembling. She pressed the handkerchief harder against her bleeding palm, watching as Drew locked the door behind them. The click of the lock made her heart race. I'm not going to hurt you, he said quietly, reading her fear. But we need privacy for this conversation. For what conversation? Cindy's voice came out smaller than she intended. I don't understand what just happened out there. Those people. They apologized to you like you were... Like I owned them? Drew leaned against the desk, arms crossed over his chest. In a way, I do. Cindy stared at him, confusion written across her face. What does that mean? It means I control the security in this district. The protection, the oversight, the rules everyone follows whether they admit it or not. He paused, watching her process this. It means when someone breaks those rules in my territory, they answer to me. The words hung in the air between them. Cindy felt her stomach drop as understanding slowly dawned. You're not just another customer. No, I'm not. You're a criminal. She said it like an accusation, but also like she was trying to convince herself it was true. A gang leader. A lot of things, Drew interrupted, his expression unreadable. But tonight, I'm the man who stopped you from getting hurt. Can we start there? Cindy's hands moved instinctively to her belly. Why would you even care? I'm nobody. Just a waitress you've ordered drinks from a few times. You're not nobody. Drew's voice was firm. And I've been coming here for 3 weeks specifically to keep an eye on you. The confession made Cindy's breath catch. What? Why? Because I noticed you were struggling. Because I saw how some customers treated you, and how you kept showing up anyway. He pushed off from the desk, running a hand through his slicked back hair, disturbing its perfect form. Because watching you endure that kind of cruelty night after night reminded me of something I couldn't ignore. That doesn't make any sense, Cindy said, shaking her head. You don't know me. You don't know anything about my life. I know you've been working here for 8 months. I know you're always alone. No one picks you up after your shift. I know you take the bus home at midnight even though this neighborhood gets dangerous. Drew's dark eyes held hers. I know you're 8 months pregnant and still working doubles because you have no other choice. Cindy felt exposed, vulnerable in a way that had nothing to do with her pregnancy. You've been watching me? Protecting you, he corrected. There's a difference. I don't need protection from some... She stopped herself, but the damage was done. From some criminal? Drew's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. You're right to be wary. But you do need protection, Cindy. More than you realize. The use of her name startled her. She'd never told him what it was. He must have overheard the bartender or seen it on the schedule. Those people tonight, Drew continued, his tone growing serious. They didn't target you randomly. Cindy's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? The woman in the sequin top? She works for a crew that's been testing my boundaries, trying to push into my territory. The 2 men with her are enforcers from the same outfit. Drew watched her carefully, gauging her reaction. They knew exactly who you were and where you worked. They came here specifically to cause trouble. But why me? Cindy's voice cracked. I'm nobody to them. I'm nobody to you. I don't understand why anyone would. Because you're visible. Because you're vulnerable. Because hurting someone under my watch sends a message that I'm losing control. Drew's jaw tightened. They used you to get to me. The words didn't make sense. Cindy pressed her hands against her temples. trying to organize her thoughts through the fog of exhaustion and fear. That's insane. I've never even met you before 3 weeks ago. How could anyone think I have anything to do with you? They've been surveilling the bar. They've seen me here. They've noticed I come back. Drew's voice dropped lower, and tonight they decided to test whether I'd intervene. So this was all just… what? Some kind of game? Anger flared in Cindy's chest, hot and unexpected. They terrorized me, humiliated me, almost hurt my baby because of some stupid turf war? Yes. Drew didn't soften the truth. And it won't stop with tonight. Cindy stood abruptly, ignoring the way her head spun. Then I'll quit. I'll find work somewhere else. Problem solved. It's not that simple. Why not? She moved toward the door, but Drew stepped in front of it, blocking her path without touching her. Because they know your face now. They know you're pregnant and alone. They know you're an easy target. His expression was grave. Quitting El Toro won't make you safe. It'll just make you easier to find. Cindy's hand froze on the door handle. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to be honest with you. Drew didn't move from his position blocking the door, but his voice gentled. I wish I could tell you that walking away would solve this, but these people don't forget. They don't forgive. And they sure as hell don't leave loose ends. I'm not a loose end, Cindy said, but even she could hear the uncertainty in her voice. I'm just a pregnant waitress trying to survive. Why would they care about me after tonight? Because you matter to me now. The words came out raw, unguarded. And that makes you a target. Cindy turned to face him fully, her back against the door. Why? Why do I matter to you? You said you've been watching me, protecting me, but that doesn't make any sense. You don't know me. Drew was silent for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face like he was trying to memorize it. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it. How did your husband die? The question hit her like a physical blow. Cindy's breath caught, tears instantly springing to her eyes. What does that have to do with anything? Please, just tell me. Hit and run, she whispered, her hand unconsciously moving to her belly, where the baby kicked. 6 months ago, he was crossing the street after work. The driver never stopped, never even slowed down. Police said it was probably someone drunk or high, that these things happen. Her voice broke. They never found who did it. Drew's expression darkened, something terrible moving behind his eyes. What was his name? Michael. Michael Wade. Cindy wiped at her tears with her uninjured hand. Why are you asking me this? What did Michael do for work? He was a warehouse supervisor at Davis Logistics on the east side. Why does any of this matter? Cindy's voice rose with frustration and grief. My husband is dead. I'm alone. I'm trying to survive for our baby. What does his job have to do with gang wars? And Davis Logistics handles distribution for half the businesses in this district, Drew interrupted, his tone heavy. Including several operations that my organization protects. Cindy shook her head, not understanding. So 6 months ago, there was a territorial dispute. A rival crew was trying to muscle in on the distribution networks, trying to take over routes and intimidate workers. Drew's hands clenched into fists at his sides. They targeted supervisors specifically, people who could influence what trucks went where, who could be pressured into looking the other way. The room felt like it was tilting. Cindy pressed harder against the door to steady herself. No, Michael wasn't involved in anything illegal. He wouldn't. I'm not saying he was, Drew said quickly. I'm saying he might have refused to be. He might have said no to the wrong people. You're telling me my husband was murdered? Cindy's voice came out strangled. That it wasn't an accident? Drew moved closer but still kept distance between them, giving her space to process. I'm saying the timing fits. I'm saying the crew that's been testing my boundaries now is the same crew that was targeting logistics workers 6 months ago. I'm saying that what happened to Michael Wade wasn't investigated properly because the police in this district know better than to dig too deep into certain incidents. Cindy slid down the door until she was sitting on the floor again, her pregnant belly making the movement awkward. She couldn't breathe properly, couldn't think past the roaring in her ears. You knew this whole time. I suspected. Drew crouched down to her level, his voice filled with something that sounded like regret. I didn't have proof until tonight. But when those 3 showed up here, targeting you specifically, it confirmed what I'd been afraid of. Which is what? Cindy looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. What could they possibly want with me? Revenge, leverage, a message. Drew's jaw tightened. Michael must have stood up to them somehow, cost them something valuable. They couldn't get to him anymore, so they waited. They watched. And when they saw his pregnant widow struggling to survive, working alone in a bar in my territory, they saw an opportunity. Cindy finished, her voice hollow. Yes, the baby kicked hard against Cindy's ribs, as if protesting everything she was hearing. She pressed both hands against her belly, trying to find comfort in the movement of the life inside her. I don't believe you. This is insane. Things like this don't happen to people like me. Look at me, Cindy. Drew waited until her red-rimmed eyes met his. I know this is overwhelming. I know you want to believe it's not true. But those people tonight weren't random bullies getting drunk and mean. They were sent. They knew your schedule, knew when you'd be vulnerable, knew exactly how to provoke a response. From you, Cindy said bitterly. They wanted you to intervene. They wanted to see if you'd protect me. And now they know I will. Drew's expression was grim, which means the stakes just got higher for both of us. Cindy stared at Drew through her tears, her mind racing through every memory of Michael's final weeks. Had he seemed worried, stressed? She'd attributed it to work pressure, to the financial strain of preparing for a baby. But what if it had been something more? I need you to think carefully, Drew said, still crouched beside her. Did Michael mention anything unusual at work? Any problems with shipments? New people asking questions? Anything that seemed off? I don't know. Cindy pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to remember through the fog of grief. He was tired all the time. He worked late more than usual. I thought he was just trying to make extra money before the baby came. Did he ever mention feeling unsafe? Being followed? Anything like that? No. Nothing like. Cindy stopped, a memory surfacing. Wait. About a week before he died, he came home really late. Said there'd been an incident at the warehouse. Some trucks had been tampered with. He had to file reports, deal with inspections. He seemed angry about it. Said someone was trying to make him look incompetent. Drew's expression darkened. What kind of tampering? I don't know the details. He didn't want to worry me. Cindy's voice broke. I was already having a difficult pregnancy. He said it was just work drama, nothing to stress about. He was protecting you, Drew said quietly. From information that could have put you in danger. Cindy looked up at him sharply. And what are you doing? Why are you telling me all this now? If Michael kept me in the dark to protect me, why are you... Because you can't protect yourself from a threat you don't know exists. Drew's voice was firm. Michael did what he thought was right, but that strategy died with him, and now you're exposed. The harsh truth of it made Cindy flinch. She wrapped her arms around her belly, feeling the baby shift and turn inside her. So what am I supposed to do? Live in fear? Look over my shoulder for the rest of my life? You're supposed to let me help you. Why? The question came out fierce, almost angry. Why do you care so much? You keep saying I matter to you, but that doesn't make any sense. I'm nobody. I'm just another victim in whatever war you're fighting. Drew was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes fixed on something past her shoulder, seeing something she couldn't. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion he couldn't quite hide. 7 years ago, I was younger, more reckless. I thought I was invincible, thought my reputation alone was enough to keep the people I cared about safe. He paused, his jaw working. I was wrong. Cindy waited, sensing that whatever he was about to say was costing him something precious. Her name was Elena. She was. Drew's voice caught. She was everything. Kind, strong, stubborn as hell. She saw past what I did, past what I was, and loved me anyway. What happened to her? Cindy asked softly. She was pregnant, 6 months along. Drew's hands clenched into fists. A rival crew wanted to send me a message. Wanted to prove I wasn't as untouchable as I thought. They grabbed her outside the clinic where she'd gone for a checkup. I got there too late. Cindy's breath hitched. Drew, they didn't kill her outright. They wanted me to find her. Wanted me to see what they'd done. His voice had gone flat, emotionless. The only way he could get through the story. She was still alive when I found her. Barely. She begged me to save the baby. I tried. God, I tried everything. But we lost them both before the ambulance arrived. Tears were streaming down Cindy's face now. Not for herself, but for him. For the woman he'd loved and the child they'd lost. I'm so sorry. I blamed myself for years. Still do. Drew finally looked at her, and his eyes were raw with old pain. I thought if I just buried myself in work, in revenge, in building power so vast that no one would ever dare come at me again, I could make up for it. But power doesn't bring them back. It doesn't fill the hole they left. Is that why you've been watching me? Cindy's voice was gentle. Because I remind you of her? Because when I first saw you pregnant, alone, working yourself to exhaustion, I saw history trying to repeat itself. Drew's voice strengthened with conviction. Because I failed Elena. But I won't fail you. I can't. This isn't your responsibility, Cindy said. But there was less certainty in her voice now. Maybe not. But it's my choice. Drew extended his hand toward her, palm up. An offering rather than a demand. I know you have no reason to trust me. I know what I am, what I do. But I'm asking you anyway, let me keep you safe. Let me make sure your baby has the chance mine never got. Cindy looked at his outstretched hand, scarred and calloused, attached to a man who'd just confessed to being a criminal and a killer. A man who'd also just revealed the deepest wound of his soul. If I say yes, she whispered, what happens? I move you somewhere secure, somewhere they can't find you. I make sure you have everything you need, food, medical care, safety. Drew's eyes held hers. And I eliminate the threat permanently. Cindy stared at Drew's outstretched hand, her mind warring between terror and something that felt dangerously close to hope. When you say eliminate the threat permanently, what does that mean exactly? Drew didn't look away. It means I handle the people who killed your husband and targeted you tonight. It means they won't be a problem anymore. You mean you'll kill them? She said it plainly, needing to hear the truth without euphemisms, if necessary. Yes, no hesitation, no apology. This is the world I live in, Cindy. I won't lie to you about what I am or what I do. She pulled her hand back, hugging herself. I can't be part of that. I can't be the reason people die, even if they killed Michael? Drew interrupted, his voice hard. They terrorized you tonight. They'll come back if I don't stop them. This isn't about revenge, it's about survival. Yours and your baby's. But if I go with you, if I let you protect me, doesn't that make me complicit? Doesn't that make me human? Drew finished. Someone who chooses life over pride? Someone who puts their child's safety above their moral comfort? The words stung because they were true. Cindy felt the baby kick again, stronger this time, as if demanding to be considered in this impossible equation. She thought about Michael, about the way he used to rest his hand on her belly and talk about teaching their daughter to ride a bike, to stand up for herself, to be brave. He'd wanted their daughter to live in a world better than the one that killed him. I need to think, Cindy said, her voice shaking. This is too much. Everything you've told me, everything that's happened, I can't process it all at once. Drew nodded slowly. I understand. But you need to understand something too. Time isn't a luxury we have. Those people left here angry and humiliated tonight. They'll report back to their boss, and decisions will be made. Decisions about what to do next. How long do I have? Hours, maybe. A day if we're lucky. Drew stood, offering his hand again to help her up. This time she took it, letting him pull her to her feet. Her legs wobbled and he steadied her with a gentle grip on her elbow. But I need you to know that whatever you decide, I'm not walking away from this. If you refuse my help, I'll still deal with the threat. The only difference is whether you're somewhere safe when I do. Cindy pressed her free hand against the small of her aching back, feeling every one of her 8 months of pregnancy. She was exhausted, terrified, and drowning in information she didn't know how to process. Can I at least go home? Sleep in my own bed? Think about this without... No. Drew's response was immediate. Your apartment is the first place they'll look. You can't go back there. But all my things are there. The baby's things. The crib Michael built. The clothes I've been collecting. Her voice cracked. Everything I have left of my life is in that apartment. And none of it matters if you're dead. Drew's bluntness was jarring, but his expression softened when he saw her flinch. I'm sorry. I know this is brutal, but I need you to understand the reality of what we're dealing with. So what, I just disappear? Abandon everything? Live in some safe house with you standing guard like a... She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't articulate what he'd become in her mind. Not quite a savior, not quite a captor. Something in between that she had no name for. I have a place outside the city. Quiet, secure, comfortable. You'd have your own space, your own room. I wouldn't. Drew paused, choosing his words carefully. I wouldn't impose on you, but I'd be close enough to make sure nothing happened. And then what? I just hide forever? Have my baby in some secret location and never see the outside world again? No. You hide until I've neutralized the threat. Then you get to choose, stay under my protection or go back to your life with the assurance that the people who hurt you can't do it again. Cindy laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. Go back to my life? What life? I can't afford rent. I'll lose my apartment if I don't show up for my shifts. Everything I've been fighting to hold on to will fall apart. I'll take care of the rent. I'll make sure your landlord doesn't evict you. Stop. Cindy held up her hand. Just stop. You're talking about controlling every aspect of my existence. Paying my bills, deciding where I live, who I see, what's safe. Don't you see how terrifying that is? I'd be trading one kind of danger for another. Drew's jaw tightened. I'm not the enemy here. Maybe not. But you're a stranger who just told me he's a criminal, that my husband was murdered, and that I need to abandon my entire life and trust you with everything. Cindy's voice rose, months of suppressed emotion finally breaking through. How am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to believe this isn't some elaborate manipulation? Because if I wanted to manipulate you, I'd have done it weeks ago. Drew's voice was steady, certain. I'd have approached you differently, offered help gradually, made myself seem like a hero instead of telling you exactly what I am. Cindy opened her mouth to argue, but a sharp pain suddenly lanced through her lower abdomen. She gasped, doubling over, her hand flying to her belly. Cindy? Drew was at her side instantly, his hand on her back. What's wrong? I don't know. Another pain, sharper this time, radiating from her stomach down through her pelvis. Something's wrong. Is it the baby? I don't know. Panic flooded her voice. It's too early. I'm not due for another month. This isn't supposed to. She cried out as another contraction hit, this one strong enough to buckle her knees. Drew caught her before she fell, sweeping her into his arms with surprising gentleness. I'm taking you to the hospital. No, wait. Cindy tried to protest, but the pain was intensifying, waves of it that made thinking impossible. I can't afford. I don't care about the money. Drew was already moving toward the door, carrying her like she weighed nothing. Your baby's health is more important than your pride right now. He kicked the office door open and strode through the bar. Conversations died as patrons stared at the Mafia boss carrying the pregnant waitress. The bartender started forward, but Drew's sharp look stopped him. Call ahead to Street Catherine's, Drew ordered. Tell them Drew Gonzalez is bringing in a woman in premature labor. Tell them to have a team ready. The bartender's eyes widened, but he grabbed the phone immediately. Drew's SUV was parked in the alley behind the bar, a sleek black vehicle that probably cost more than Cindy made in a year. He managed to open the back door while still holding her, settling her across the seat with careful precision. Stay with me, he said, his voice low and urgent. Keep breathing. We'll be there in 5 minutes. Cindy tried to focus on his words, but the pain was overwhelming. She'd been to birthing classes, knew what contractions were supposed to feel like. This was different, sharper, accompanied by a cramping that felt wrong. Through her fear, one thought kept cycling. It's too early. The baby isn't ready. Something's wrong. Michael, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I need Michael. Drew's hands tightened on the steering wheel as he pulled onto the street, driving fast but controlled. I know. I'm sorry. I can't do this alone. I can't. Another contraction cut off her words, and she curled onto her side, sobbing. You're not alone. Drew's voice was firm. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. You don't understand. You're a stranger. She gasped as pain radiated through her back. I should have someone who loves me, someone who chose to be here, not someone who feels guilty about. This isn't about guilt. Drew took a sharp corner, the hospital coming into view. Not anymore. Street Catherine's emergency entrance was lit up like a beacon. True to the bartender's word, a medical team was already waiting outside with a wheelchair. Drew barely had the car in park before he was out, pulling Cindy carefully from the back seat. How far along? A nurse asked, taking charge immediately. 8 months, Cindy managed between gasps. 32 weeks. Is this your first? Yes. And you're the father? The nurse looked at Drew as they rushed Cindy through the automatic doors. Drew hesitated for just a fraction of a second. I'm her partner. The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly that Cindy didn't have the energy to correct it. Besides, who else did she have? Her in-laws had cut her off after Michael's death, blaming her for their son being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her own parents had passed years ago. Friends had drifted away under the weight of her grief and poverty. Drew was all she had, and that thought was almost more terrifying than the pain. They wheeled her into an examination room where hands moved efficiently, hooking her up to monitors, checking her blood pressure, examining her. A doctor appeared, a woman with kind eyes and efficient movements. I'm Dr. Patel. Let's see what's happening here. She positioned the ultrasound wand, and suddenly the room filled with the rapid sound of the baby's heartbeat. Heartbeat is strong. That's good. But you're definitely having contractions. How's your stress level been lately? Cindy let out a hysterical laugh that turned into a sob. High. Very high. Any bleeding? Loss of fluid? No. Just pain and cramping. Dr. Patel examined the monitor readings, her expression thoughtful. Your baby is showing signs of distress, likely in response to your elevated stress hormones. The contractions are real, but I don't think you're in active labor yet. However, at 32 weeks, if we can't stop them, we may need to deliver. No, Cindy whispered. It's too early. She's not ready. Babies born at 32 weeks have excellent survival rates with proper care, Dr. Patel assured her. But let's focus on calming these contractions first. I'm going to give you medication to help stop them, and something to help the baby's lungs develop faster, just in case. But Cindy, the doctor's voice became serious. Whatever is causing this stress, you need to eliminate it. Your body is telling you it can't handle this anymore. Cindy turned her head to look at Drew, who stood against the wall, his expensive suit looking out of place in the sterile hospital room. His face was tight with concern, his hands clenched at his sides like he wanted to fight something but had no enemy he could reach. Okay, Cindy whispered, the word feeling like surrender and salvation at once. Okay, I'll go with you. Drew's expression shifted relief mixed with something deeper, something almost vulnerable. He moved closer to the hospital bed, his voice low. You're making the right choice. I don't know if there is a right choice anymore, Cindy said, her hand resting on her belly where the monitors showed her baby's heartbeat steadying. But I know I can't lose her. Not after losing everything else. Dr. Patel administered the medications through Cindy's IV, explaining each one. The terbutaline should stop the contractions within the next hour. The betamethasone will help mature the baby's lungs over the next 48 hours. I want to keep you for observation tonight. Make sure everything stabilizes. She needs to be discharged, Drew said suddenly. The doctor turned to him, frowning. Mr. Gonzalez, I understand you have influence in this city, but I won't release a patient in active premature labor just because someone tried to hurt her tonight. Drew interrupted, his voice quiet but carrying an edge that made the doctor pause. That's what caused this stress. As long as she's here, registered under her real name, she's a target. They'll find her. Dr. Patel looked between them, understanding dawning in her eyes. I see. No, you don't, Drew said. And it's better that way. But I need you to trust me when I say that the safest place for her is not in a hospital bed where anyone can walk through that door. I have a private medical facility, Drew continued. Full staff, everything she needs, better security than this hospital could ever provide. Transfer her care to me, and I guarantee she'll have round-the-clock monitoring. Dr. Patel crossed her arms. A private facility? You're talking about treating a high-risk pregnancy outside a hospital. That's extremely irregular. So is everything else about tonight. Drew's eyes were hard. I'm not asking for permission to take her home and hope for the best. I have equipment, staff, specialists on call. Everything you have here, I can provide with one critical difference. No one will know where she is. Cindy watched the exchange, feeling like a chess piece being moved across a board she couldn't see. What if something goes wrong? What if I need an emergency C-section or... We have an operating room, Drew said, looking at her now. And surgeons who owe me favors. Big ones. This is insane, Cindy whispered, but her conviction was wavering. The contractions were slowing, but fear had taken root in her chest. What if those people came to the hospital? What if they found her while she was trapped in this bed, unable to run, unable to protect her baby? Dr. Patel studied Cindy's face. Is this what you want? Because regardless of what Mr. Gonzalez says, you're my patient. Your consent is what matters. Cindy took a shaky breath. If I stay here, am I safe? The doctor hesitated, and that hesitation was answer enough. Then I want to go with him, Cindy said softly. But I want you to come too. At least for tonight, please. Dr. Patel looked surprised. I have other patients. I'll pay triple your nightly rate, Drew said, and make a donation to this hospital that will fund your entire obstetrics wing for the next year. The doctor's eyebrows rose. You're serious? Completely. After a long moment, Dr. Patel nodded. Fine. But I want detailed records of your facility, proof of your medical staff's credentials, and a direct line to this hospital in case we need emergency backup. Done. Drew pulled out his phone, already making calls. An hour later, Cindy's contractions had stopped completely. Drew had arranged everything with the efficiency of someone used to moving pieces on a board: a private ambulance, discreet discharge paperwork that listed her under a false name, security that cleared the route before they left. Dr. Patel rode in the ambulance with them, monitoring Cindy's vitals, while Drew sat in the front passenger seat, constantly checking his phone and communicating with someone Cindy couldn't see. "Where is this place?" Cindy asked as they left the city lights behind, heading into darker roads lined with trees. "About 40 minutes north," Drew answered without turning around. "It used to be a private estate. I converted part of it into a medical facility after." He stopped himself. "After Elena?" Cindy supplied quietly. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken grief. Finally, Drew said, "I swore I'd never be unprepared again, that if I ever had the chance to save someone, I'd have every resource available. I built that place with her in mind, never thought I'd actually use it." Dr. Patel glanced at Cindy, questions in her eyes, but she said nothing. The estate appeared suddenly, a sprawling property surrounded by high walls, the main house lit up against the night sky. But they didn't go to the main house. Instead, the ambulance curved around to a separate building, smaller but clearly modern, with clean lines and large windows that reflected the security lights. "The medical wing," Drew explained as the ambulance stopped. "Self-contained, separate from the main residence, so you'll have privacy." They brought Cindy in on a stretcher despite her protests that she could walk. The interior was nothing like she'd expected, not cold and clinical, but warm, almost homey, with wood floors and soft lighting. But the equipment was state-of-the-art, better than what she'd seen at Street Catherine's. A nurse was already waiting, a competent-looking woman in her 50s who introduced herself as Margaret. "I've prepared the suite," she said. Everything Dr. Patel requested. They settled Cindy into a room that looked more like a high-end hotel than a hospital, with a real bed instead of a narrow cot, comfortable chairs, and a private bathroom. The medical equipment was there but subtle, integrated into the design rather than dominating it. Dr. Patel checked Cindy's vitals again, examined the monitor readings. "Everything looks stable. The contractions have stopped completely. But you need rest, real rest. No more stress, no more drama." "Easier said than done," Cindy murmured, her exhaustion finally catching up with her. "Then let's make it easier." Drew appeared in the doorway. He'd removed his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, looking somehow more dangerous in his casual state than he had in full armor. "Dr. Patel, Margaret will show you to your quarters. You'll find everything you need there." After the doctor left, Drew moved closer to Cindy's bedside, but didn't sit. "I know this is overwhelming. I know you probably want to be anywhere but here. But you're safe now. I promise you that." "How can you promise something like that?" Cindy asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How can anyone promise safety in a world where pregnant women get targeted and husbands get murdered?" "Because I control this world now," Drew said, and there was steel in his voice. "The people who hurt you, who killed Michael, they made a mistake tonight. They showed their hand, and now I know exactly who they are and where to find them. What are you going to do? What needs to be done?" He pulled a chair closer and finally sat, bringing himself to her eye level. "But that's not something you need to worry about. Your only job is to rest, stay calm, and keep that baby safe until she's ready to be born." "Just like that? I'm supposed to hide here while you go to war?" "Yes. No apology, no hesitation. That's exactly what you're supposed to do." Cindy studied his face, seeing the determination there, the absolute conviction that he could protect her. Part of her wanted to believe him. The exhausted, terrified part that had been running on empty for months wanted nothing more than to surrender to someone else's strength. But another part, the part that had survived Michael's death, eviction notices, and endless double shifts, resisted the idea of becoming someone's project, someone's second chance at redemption. "I need you to understand something," she said carefully. "I'm grateful, truly. You saved me tonight, probably saved my baby. But I'm not Elena. I can't be your do-over, your chance to fix past mistakes." Drew's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, pain, perhaps, or recognition. "I know who you are, Cindy, and I know you're not her. But that doesn't change the fact that you need help, and I'm offering it." "Why?" The question hung between them. "And don't say it's because of guilt or redemption. Tell me the real reason." Drew was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw with an honesty that seemed to cost him. "Because when I watched you tonight, curled up on that floor, protecting your baby with nothing but your own body, whispering, "Please," like the world might still show you mercy. He stopped, his jaw clenching. I saw the kind of strength I forgot existed, the kind that doesn't come from power or fear or control. And I realized I've spent 7 years building an empire to protect people, but I'd forgotten what I was protecting them for. Tears slid down Cindy's cheeks. "That's a lot of weight to put on a stranger." "Then stop being a stranger," Drew said simply. "Stay here. Rest. Let me handle the ugliness outside these walls. And maybe, when it's over, we'll both have a chance at something better than survival." Cindy woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the soft beeping of medical monitors. For a disorienting moment, she couldn't remember where she was then. Everything from the night before came flooding back. The attack at El Toro, Drew's revelations about Michael, the contractions, this place. She sat up slowly, her hand automatically going to her belly. The baby kicked in response, a reassuring flutter that made her exhale with relief. "Good morning." Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway, looking remarkably well-rested for someone who'd been conscripted into this strange situation. "How are you feeling?" "Sore. Confused. Scared." Cindy managed a weak smile. "But the baby's moving, so that's good. Let's check everything properly." "Doctor." Patel moved through the examination with professional efficiency, checking vitals, listening to the baby's heartbeat, palpating Cindy's abdomen. "No contractions during the night. Blood pressure is better. You and baby both look stable. So I can leave?" Even as she said it, Cindy wasn't sure where she'd go. "Medically, you could. But should you?" Dr. Patel pulled up a chair, her expression serious. "Cindy, I don't know the full story of what's happening here. Mr. Gonzalez is clearly someone with significant resources and, I suspect, significant enemies. But I've been doing this for 20 years, and I know stress when I see it. Whatever you were dealing with before last night nearly caused premature labor. If you go back to that environment, I could lose her," Cindy finished softly. "Yes." The doctor's hand covered Cindy's. "I'm not telling you what to do, but I am telling you that your body is at its limit. One more major stress event, and we might not be able to stop labor next time." After Dr. Patel left, Cindy sat in the quiet room, processing everything. Through the window, she could see manicured grounds, trees swaying in the morning breeze, a world that seemed impossibly peaceful compared to the chaos of her life. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Margaret, the nurse, entered with a tray. "Breakfast." Mr. Gonzalez was very specific about the menu: high protein, lots of nutrients for you and the baby. The smell of scrambled eggs and fresh fruit made Cindy's stomach growl. She couldn't remember the last time she'd had a proper breakfast. Not just whatever she could grab between shifts. "Where is he?" Cindy asked, accepting the tray. "He left early this morning. Business. To attend to." Margaret's tone was carefully neutral, but Cindy understood what business meant. Drew was dealing with the people who'd targeted her, eliminating threats, doing whatever dark things men like him did. "When will he be back?" He didn't say, but he left instructions that you're to have anything you need. Food, clothes, books, entertainment. Whatever makes you comfortable. Comfortable. The word felt foreign. Cindy couldn't remember the last time she'd been comfortable, truly comfortable, without the constant anxiety of unpaid bills and empty refrigerators. She spent the morning in a strange limbo, resting, eating food she didn't have to cook herself, watched over by medical staff who were there solely for her benefit. It should have felt like luxury. Instead, it felt like waiting for a bomb to explode. By afternoon, Margaret had brought her actual maternity clothes, soft, expensive fabrics that fit her swollen body properly, not the stretched-out clearance items she'd been making do with. There were books, magazines, even a tablet loaded with movies. "This is too much," Cindy protested. "Mr. Gonzalez wants you comfortable," Margaret repeated, as if that explained everything. But comfort came with a price Cindy was only beginning to understand. She was trapped here safe, yes, but trapped nonetheless. She had no phone, no way to contact anyone, no control over what happened beyond these walls. When Drew finally returned as the sun was setting, Cindy was standing by the window, watching shadows lengthen across the grounds. She heard his footsteps before he spoke. "How are you feeling?" She turned to face him. He looked tired, she realized. There was tension in his shoulders, and though his clothes were different, dark jeans and a black button-down, there was something in his demeanor that suggested violence recently enacted. "What did you do?" Her voice was steadier than she expected. What needed to be done? He moved into the room but kept his distance. respecting her space. The people who attacked you last night won't be a problem anymore. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're going to get. His tone wasn't unkind, just firm. There are parts of my world you don't need to see, Cindy, parts I won't bring to your door. My door? She gestured around the luxurious room. This isn't my door. This is your gilded cage, and I'm the bird who flew in thinking it was sanctuary. Drew's jaw tightened. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think. Cindy's emotions, held in check all day, finally spilled over. I woke up this morning in a place I don't know, surrounded by people on your payroll, wearing clothes you bought, eating food you provided. I have no phone, no contact with the outside world, no idea what's happening beyond these walls. You say I'm safe, but I feel like a prisoner. You're not a prisoner. You can leave whenever you want. Can I? She challenged him. Can I really walk out of here, go back to my apartment, return to my life, or will that put me right back in danger? Drew was silent, and his silence was its own answer. That's what I thought. Cindy turned back to the window, pressing her hand against the glass. I traded one kind of fear for another. At least before, I had my independence. My choices were my own, even if they were all bad ones. Your independence almost killed your baby last night. The words hit like a slap. Cindy spun around, anger flashing in her eyes. Don't you dare use my child as leverage. Don't you dare pretend this is all for her benefit when we both know it's about your guilt. Your need to save someone because you couldn't save Elena. Drew's expression darkened, something dangerous flickering behind his eyes. For a moment, Cindy wondered if she'd pushed too far, if she'd forgotten exactly who she was challenging. But when he spoke, his voice was controlled, though she could hear the anger underneath. You're right. Part of this is about Elena. Part of it is about guilt I'll carry until I die. But that doesn't make the danger any less real. Cindy, that doesn't change the fact that Michael is dead because he got in these people's way, and you're next on their list. So what's the plan? Cindy demanded. I hide here forever? Raise my daughter in this bubble while you control everything outside? What kind of life is that? A living one, Drew said bluntly, which is better than the alternative. Maybe I'd rather take my chances out there than live like this, constantly dependent on someone else's protection, someone else's money, someone else's choices. Even if those chances mean your daughter grows up without a mother? Drew moved closer now, his intensity filling the space between them. Even if your pride costs her the only parent she has left? Cindy's breath caught. She wanted to argue, to defend her position, but the truth of his words cut too deep. She was being proud, reckless even, letting her need for independence override her responsibility to her child. I hate this, she whispered, tears spilling over. I hate feeling helpless. I hate owing you. I hate that you're right. Drew's expression softened. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and when she didn't, he rested his hand on her shoulder. I know, and I'm sorry. I wish I could give you the freedom you want with the safety you need. But right now, I can only offer one. For how long? Until I've dismantled the organization that targeted you. Until every person who knows your face, your name, your connection to Michael is either working for me or no longer a threat. He paused. Could be weeks. Could be months. Months? Cindy's hand went to her belly. I'll have the baby before then. She'll be born here, in this place, surrounded by strangers, surrounded by people who will keep her safe. Drew corrected gently. And for what it's worth, you won't be alone. I'll be here. Why? The question came out small, vulnerable. Why do you care so much? And please, don't tell me again about guilt and redemption. Tell me the truth. Drew was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching hers. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a rawness she'd never heard before. Because when I look at you, I see someone who refuses to break even when the world has given her every reason to. Because your strength reminds me why I built this empire in the first place, to protect people who deserve better than what life handed them. He paused, his hand sliding from her shoulder to gently cup her face. And because somewhere between watching you survive and seeing you fight for your daughter, I started caring about you as more than just a second chance. The early morning sun painted El Toro Bar in shades of gold and amber, but the transformation went far beyond the lighting. Where once there had been sticky floors and broken furniture, now there were polished tables and comfortable booths. The air smelled of fresh coffee and baking bread, instead of stale beer and cigarettes. The neon sign still read El Toro, but beneath it, new lettering announced, Family Restaurant and Community Center. Cindy stood behind the counter, her 4-month-old daughter Sophia asleep in a carrier against her chest, going over the morning's inventory. She wore comfortable jeans and a soft sweater, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She looked nothing like the exhausted, terrified waitress who'd begged for mercy on this same floor 6 months ago. "The delivery truck is here," called Maria, one of the 3 other single mothers Cindy had hired in the past month. "Want me to check it in? Please. And make sure they didn't short us on the produce again." Cindy smiled, adjusting Sophia's carrier. The baby stirred but didn't wake, her tiny fingers curling in sleep. The past 6 months had been a story Cindy still struggled to believe was her own life. She'd spent 3 months at Drew's estate, watched over by medical staff, protected by security she never saw but always felt. Dr. Patel had stayed for 2 weeks before returning to the hospital, satisfied that Cindy and the baby were stable, though she'd remained on call throughout the pregnancy. Sophia had been born at 38 weeks in the estate's medical facility, a smooth delivery, all things considered, with Drew pacing outside like an expectant father even though he had no claim to that title. When the nurse had brought Sophia out, swaddled and perfect, Drew had looked at the baby with such raw emotion that Cindy had seen past his armor completely. "She's beautiful," he'd whispered, his finger carefully stroking Sophia's tiny hand. Just like her mother. The weeks after Sophia's birth had been disorienting. Cindy had wanted to leave, to reclaim her independence. But she had nowhere to go. Her apartment had been lost despite Drew's payments. The landlord had rented it to someone else when she disappeared. She had no job, no savings, and a newborn who needed everything. Drew had made an offer. "Let me invest in you." "What does that mean?" Cindy had asked, nursing Sophia in the estate's comfortable nursery. "It means I'm restructuring my operations, getting out of some businesses, legitimizing others." El Toro was always more of a front than anything else, but it could be something better. He'd sat across from her, his expression serious. "I want to turn it into a real business. A restaurant that employs people who need second chances, single mothers, people with records, anyone the system has failed. And I want you to run it." "Me? I was a waitress, Drew. I don't know anything about running a restaurant. You know about survival. You know about dignity and hard work. You know what it's like to need help and have nowhere to turn." He'd leaned forward, his intensity focused entirely on her. "That's worth more than any business degree. And I'll provide the capital, the training, whatever you need. But the vision, the heart of it, that has to be yours." Cindy had wanted to refuse, to maintain her independence, but when she looked at Sophia sleeping peacefully in her arms, she'd realized that pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. "Okay," she'd agreed, "but I want real ownership, not just a job you've created to keep me dependent on you. If I'm going to do this, I need it to be mine." Drew had smiled, something genuine and warm that transformed his usually guarded face. 60-40 split. You own 60%, I own 40, and provide the capital as a loan you can pay back over time. Fair? More than fair, Cindy had admitted. The renovation had taken 3 months. Drew had brought in designers who'd listened to Cindy's vision of a warm, welcoming space that felt like home rather than a bar. They'd kept the original wooden bar sanded down and refinished, but added a children's play area in one corner, comfortable seating throughout, and a commercial kitchen that could handle the ambitious menu Cindy was developing. The hiring process had been Cindy's favorite part. She'd interviewed dozens of applicants, focusing on the ones other employers dismissed: women with gaps in their work history because they'd been raising children alone, people with criminal records who'd served their time and deserved a chance, immigrants struggling to find work despite their skills. Everyone has a story, Cindy had told Drew as she made her final hiring decisions. Everyone deserves someone to believe in them. Like someone believed in you? Drew had asked quietly. Yes, like that. Now, watching Maria efficiently check in the delivery, while another employee, Rachel, set up the dining room for the breakfast service, Cindy felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The door chimed, and Drew walked in, looking less like a mafia boss and more like a successful businessman in his tailored slacks and cashmere sweater. His transformation had been as dramatic as the bars. He'd divested from the most violent aspects of his operations, repositioned himself as a legitimate investor and developer, though Cindy suspected he still maintained enough connections to keep them all safe. "How's my favorite entrepreneur?" Drew asked, his eyes going immediately to Sophia. "And how's my goddaughter?" That had been another surprise, Drew's request to be Sophia's godfather. Cindy had hesitated, understanding the weight of that relationship in Drew's world, but ultimately agreed. He'd been there for Sophia's birth, had protected them both when no one else could or would. He'd earned that role. "We're good," Inventory's complete, staff is ready, and we're booked solid for brunch this weekend. Cindy felt pride swell in her chest. In just 2 months of operation, El Toro had become known for excellent food, reasonable prices, and a welcoming atmosphere. I need to talk to you about something, Drew said, his tone shifting to something more serious. In private? Cindy's stomach tightened with old fear, but she nodded, following him to the office, the same room where he'd first told her about Michael's murder and the danger she faced. Once inside with the door closed, Drew turned to face her. It's done. Finished. The organization that killed Michael, that targeted you, they don't exist anymore. Cindy's breath caught. What happened? Some of them are in prison. Federal charges, ironclad cases. Others made deals, turned state's evidence against their leadership, and the ones who refused either option. Drew's expression was grim. They're no longer a threat to anyone. You killed them. It wasn't a question. Some of them. The ones who wouldn't accept any other outcome. He met her eyes steadily. I won't apologize for that. They murdered your husband. They would have killed you and Sophia if given the chance. Cindy should have felt horror, revulsion, something. Instead, she felt only a deep, exhausted relief. So it's really over? Yes, you're safe now. Sophia's safe. You can live your life without looking over your shoulder. What does that mean for us? The question came out before Cindy could stop it. For whatever this is between us, Drew had been a constant presence over the past 6 months, visiting the estate daily during her pregnancy, staying for Sophia's birth, helping with the restaurant renovation, showing up here most mornings with coffee and conversation. They weren't together, not officially, but there was something between them that defied easy categorization. That depends on what you want, Drew said carefully. I meant what I said months ago. You're not a prisoner, not a project. You own this business, you have independence, you can build whatever life you want. If that life doesn't include me, I'll accept that. But if there's room for me somewhere in it. He trailed off, vulnerability showing through the cracks in his armor. This man who commanded empires and made hardened criminals tremble was nervous, uncertain, waiting for her answer. Cindy looked at him, really looked, seeing past the dangerous exterior to the broken man who'd found redemption through protecting her. She thought about the past 6 months, how he'd kept every promise, respected every boundary, showed up for every moment that mattered, how he held Sophia with such careful tenderness, how he listened when Cindy talked about her plans and dreams, how he'd given her the tools to build something meaningful. Sophia needs a father figure, Cindy said slowly. Someone who will be there, consistently, not just financially, but emotionally. Someone she can count on. Drew nodded, his expression carefully neutral. I can be that person. I want to be that person. And I need, Cindy paused, choosing her words carefully. I need someone who sees me as an equal, not as someone to protect or save, but as a partner, someone who trusts me to make my own choices even if he doesn't always agree with them. I can do that too, Drew said quietly. I have been doing that. Or at least, I've been trying. You have. Cindy moved closer, Sophia's weight warm against her chest. You've given me space to find myself again, to become someone more than just a victim or a survivor. You've believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. So? Drew's voice was rough with emotion. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe we could try something. Not rush it, not force it, but see where this goes. Cindy reached out, taking his hand. I'm saying that somewhere between you saving my life and me rebuilding it, I started caring about you too. Drew's fingers tightened around hers. I'll mess this up sometimes. I'm too controlling, too used to solving problems with power instead of patience. And I'm too independent, too stubborn, too determined to do everything myself, even when I need help. Cindy smiled. But maybe we can figure it out together. Drew pulled her gently into his arms, careful of Sophia sleeping between them. I'd like that. I'd like that very much. They stood there in the office of El Toro Bar, holding each other while Sophia slept peacefully, unaware that she was witnessing the beginning of something neither of her parents had thought possible. A family built not from tragedy, but from its ashes. Outside, the morning sun continued to rise, painting the city in gold. Customers would arrive soon, the restaurant would fill with laughter and conversation, and life would continue in all its messy, beautiful complexity. But in that moment, Cindy allowed herself something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Genuine happiness. The kind that comes not from the absence of struggle, but from finally finding someone willing to face those struggles beside you. Thank you, she whispered against Drew's chest, For everything. No, Drew said, his lips brushing her hair. Thank you. For giving me a reason to become someone worth redemption. For showing me that strength doesn't always look like power. Sophia stirred, making the small mewling sounds that signaled she'd wake soon, hungry and demanding. Drew stepped back, letting Cindy prepare for the feeding, but his eyes stayed on them, both his goddaughter and the woman who'd changed everything. The city outside still had its darkness. Drew's past would always carry shadows. There would be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and difficulty. But standing in the transformed bar, watching Cindy tenderly care for her daughter, Drew felt something he'd thought died with Elena. Hope for a future that wasn't defined by violence and regret. And Cindy, looking at this complicated man who'd given her safety and then something more precious, the freedom to choose him, felt her own hope blooming. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the person you fear becomes the person you need. And sometimes, just sometimes, tragedy's aftermath can plant the seeds for something beautiful. El Toro Bar opened for breakfast service an hour later, filled with families and individuals who'd all found their way there through different paths. And at the heart of it all was a young mother who'd learned that asking for help wasn't weakness, and a reformed criminal who discovered that real power came from building something rather than destroying it. Their story wasn't over, it was just beginning. Thanks for sticking with this story till the end. If you enjoyed it, you're going to love the next one. It's packed with unexpected turns and heartfelt moments. Click the image on your screen to keep the journey going, and make sure to hit subscribe for more amazing stories. Drop a comment and rate this story from 1 to 10. I can't wait to see what you think.
А все равно, как бы, сути дела не меняет, как бы зарплата плюс-минус везде там, больше, чуть меньше. Как бы, и, наверное, это все, вот эта общая ситуация, наверное, у многих привела, во-первых, сфера развлечений, да, всякие там кредиты и так далее, настолько загоняют каждого в задницу человека. И об этом на самом деле никто так-то не говорит. Какое количество сейчас, допустим, даже в те же сложные времена такие, когда вот сейчас там специальная военная операция, да, где люди вообще умирают, в принципе, за какую-то сумму денег. То есть какая мотивация, то есть у мужика идти типа на войну, воевать и как бы заработать денег? Потому что он вот в обычной жизни не понимает, типа, как реализовать себя. Он понимает, что он может пойти работать на какую-то работу, где зарплаты его все равно не будет хватать. Как бы тут тоже двойственная сторона. Хорошо, когда она есть, плохо, когда ее нету. Да, вот это маленькая даже зарплаты. Но морально-то ты все равно подавлен. Ты понимаешь, да, я там пойду туда, но как бы смысла мне этого не принесет большого. Да, у меня там станет, если я вообще не работаю и буду работать за 50 тысяч, хорошо, что они у меня есть, я смогу там покушать себе купить, но это же дизмораль. Когда ты заходишь в интернет и видишь, как люди там в Дубае летают, покупают себе огромное количество автомобилей какие-то, много всего такого, что ты за эту зарплату себе никогда в жизни позволить не сможешь. И как человеку оставаться морально типа сильным? Что ему нужно делать? Наверное, во-первых, это, наверное, все от семьи исходит, да? То есть, какая семья у тебя, как она построена. Если ты один живешь, это сложно, да, ты будешь сам себя, но у тебя, опять-таки, возможно, родители, если есть, которые друзья поддержат тебя в какой-то момент, хотя бы просто отвлекут тебя от этих мыслей. А если у тебя, к примеру, там, семья, жена, к примеру, да, есть дети, то тут, наверное, поддержка только от них исходит какая-то. Вот. Чтобы не упиваться в своих мыслях о том, что какая нынче сложная жизнь. И, наверное, других-то вариантов, в принципе-то, и нету. Какие вот еще варианты, в принципе, изменить, поменять свою жизнь настолько, чтобы она была, казалась тебе удачной, да, реализованным себя в жизни, в чем-то. вот как проявляется на самом деле у нас реализованность? Наверное, у 90% случаев это финансовое благополучие, финансовая независимость. Это, наверное, одно из таких ключевых моментов, когда человек, наверное, считает себя реализованным, да, в этой жизни. То есть, как добиться этого? То есть, с учетом того, что даже возьмем нашу страну, да, сколько миллионов людей здесь живет, как каждому добиться этого результата? Непонятно. И с каждым годом просто ситуация становится все хуже и хуже. Все дорожает, люди зарабатывают либо столько же. Ну, даже если они зарабатывают столько же, на самом деле этого все уже недостаточно. К чему это все приведет на самом деле? В оконцове, наверное, мир погрязнет в большую депрессию в какую-то. Какие-то войны, возможно, или еще что-то еще больше глобальных таких вещей, которые не приведут ни к чему хорошему на самом деле. Поддержка каждого человека именно для того, чтобы он держался, наверное, морально, заключается в том, что, ну, наверное, дом, в который ты приходишь, должен быть крепостью твоей, да, что это единственное должно быть место, где ты будешь чувствовать себя под защитой. Для этого было придумано, наверное, своя пещера изначально, потом свои какие-то чумы, палатки различные, да, потом все это превратилось. На данный момент это у нас дома, квартиры, в которые мы приходим и должны ощущать себя в безопасности, чтобы можно быть немного морально расслабленным с учетом того, что ты выходишь каждый день на работу, на улицу, и все равно давление вот это вот, оно все присутствует. Когда ты заходишь в магазин, видишь цены эти, да, и так далее, не можешь себе что-то там приобрести, позволить на ежедневной основе, это откладывает большой, наверное, отпечаток. Не, наверное, а точно. И поэтому, когда возвращаясь домой, ты чувствуешь, вот хотя бы есть типа уголок того места, куда ты можешь прийти. Уголок на самом деле человеку много тоже не надо. Можно хотеть большего, но на самом деле человеку одному много не надо. Да? Ему нужно спальное место, спокойное место, где можно подумать. Ну, это когда ты один, к примеру, да? Когда у тебя есть семья, к примеру, ты приходишь домой, опять-таки, и тут хотя бы, да, поговорить о каких-то вещах. Просто об отрешенных вещах, наверное. И, возможно, при этих же условиях у тебя и появляется какая-то дополнительная мотивация для реализации себя. А когда у тебя нету ничего, вот это уже становится проблемой. И это у многих на самом деле. Что значит не иметь ничего? Тут, наверное, самое главное, дизмораль у человека еще возникает при том, что это уже, наверное, где-то в глубине души даже она возникает при даже хорошей финансовой подушке такой, которая у тебя есть, хороших финансовых деньгах, да, то есть, но нету вот внутреннего ощущения, к примеру, дружбы, семьи, любви и так далее. Это уже отдельно на самом деле разговор, потому что мы, вот, к примеру, можем взять, как сейчас вот Новстрой, если кто-то смотрит, насколько тяжело обладать такими финансами и не иметь, по сути, ничего. ни друзей, ничего не иметь. Так главное это получается для бедных главное деньги, для богатых главное какое-то внутреннее ощущение нужности, не из-за денег. Вот такой вот. И эта борьба какая-то такая и вот эти два слоя общества, богатые и бедные, они друг друга не понимают. На самом деле из-за этого, возможно. Потому что богатый человек, он уже не смотрит на деньги, он не считает эти деньги. Ему важно внутреннее вот это вот ощущение того, что он нужен без них даже. Это как Тони Старку сказали: а кто ты без костюма? На вот это я филантроп, тудым-сюдым. Он сказал, да? Так и человеку, у которого много денег, ты задашь вопрос: а кто ты без денег? Ну, что ты представляешь себе без денег? Вот и это, наверное, возможно, таких людей богатых, как вот, например, там Мелстрой, задав ему этот вопрос: а кто ты без денег? Он на него ответить-то и не сможет. Обратная сторона людей бедных, да, вот если мы посмотрим, человеку